Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Let's continue with the last part on topic 4, which is the selection control structures. In part 3, we have looked at examples of multiple statements where we have if-else within the else and also nested if statements where we have if or if-else statements within the if. In this part, we are going to learn about switch case that can do similar things as multiple if-else. In switch structure, the syntax is switch, then an expression similar to the if statement, and we need to write the braces. Expression must yield a value of type char, byte, short, or int. It can also be an identifier. In if and if-else, the expression can only have the value of true or false, but in switch, it can be any other type. Then, in the switch, we use case to represent different values that the expression can have. We must write case, then the expected value. Value can only be integral, which means of type char, byte, short, or int. It can also be a string. At each of the case, we would write case, the value of it, colon, and then the statements. We also need to write break because if we don't have break, it will continue and execute the next statement in the other cases. We will look at examples later on. Also in switch, we can have as many cases as we want. We can also have a default case which will be executed when none of the cases values match. You can think of the default as the last else statement in multiple if-else. Basically, in the default, we can have statements such as a print statement to let the user know that they have entered an invalid number, for example. Before we look at example of code, here is showing the flowchart of switch case structure. Similar to if-else, the condition or expression is written in a rectangle, and list of possible values are within the diamond shape. If the case is true, it will execute the statements within the case. Otherwise, it will check the values in other cases. After each of the statement, it needs to have the break so that it can exit the switch case block. Let's look at this example. We have switch and the expression is number, which refers to the variable. As number is an int, then the cases must be of type int. So it should be case 1, case 2, case 3, and so on. It can be any number depending on what you expect the user to enter. For example, when we run this code, it asks the user to enter a number, the value of 1 to 5. When we enter 5, it checks case 1. 1 is not the same as 5, so it goes to the next case 2. 2 is not equal to 5, it checks the next one until it gets to case 5. 5 is the same as 5, so it displays number 5 because that is the statement within the case. It then finds the break and breaks out of the switch block. What if we enter the value 10? What do you think will be displayed? It checks all the cases. Since none of the cases match, it will go to the default case and display the number is invalid. If we don't have the default case, then nothing will be printed on the screen. Let's look at this other example where we have char grade. In this code, it asks the user to enter the grade. We use input.next.char@0. What does char@0 means? It means it will only read the first character. So the user can enter, for example, CA, it will only read the first character, which is the letter C. Going back to the switch structure, we have switch, and then the expression is grade, which refers to the variable grade value. Take note that the cases A, B, C, D, and F are values of type char, as grade is of type char as well. So because it is a character, we need to use the single quote. Make sure that the expression and the value must be related. In this case, the grade and also A, B, C, D, and F. Let's look at this code where we remove break at each of the cases. What do you think will happen when we don't have break? When we run this code, it will ask us to enter the grade. If we enter C, what happens is it finds the case that match C. So it checks case A, that is not a match, case B, that is not a match, and case C, which is a match. It then executes the statement and printed out the grade is C. But because we don't have the break, it will continue with the next statement in the other cases. So it will print out the grade is D, the grade is F, and the grade is invalid. So we should always remember to write break if you want it to exit the switch when it has found a match case. Do we need to write break at the default? We can, but we don't have to because default is the last one within the switch. There is no other cases after the default. It will just be redundant if you write break. Going back to the initial code where we have the break in place, what do you think will be displayed if we enter small letter C instead of capital letter C? Do you think that it will display the grade is C or does it display the grade is invalid? It will go to the default case and display the grade is invalid. Why do you think it displays this message? Remember that Java is case sensitive, so in the cases, we have capital C, but we don't have any case for small letter c. That's why it executes the statement in the default, because none of the cases match small letter c. How should we modify our code so that regardless of capital letter C or small letter c, it should display the grade is C? We can have another case that is called case small letter c, and then in the next line, case capital letter C. As we have seen in the previous slides, when we don't have any break written, it will continue with the next case and statement. So here, it finds the match case, which is small letter c. There is no break there. It will continue with the case capital C, and then the statement, the print line. It will display the grade is C, and because capital letter C case has the break, it will break out of the switch. So, when we run this code and we enter small letter c, it will display the grade is C. Another way that we can do is by using the toUppercase method from the character class. It converts the character to uppercase, so we don't have to write several cases to include small and capital letters. There are other methods that we can use, such as toLowercase, which change it to lowercase, and ignoreCase, where it will just ignore whether it's capital letter or small letter. You can check the Java API to know more about all the methods that it can have. What about logical operators? Can we use it? For example, can we write it as case capital letter C or small letter c? Is this valid? This is invalid. In switch case, we cannot use logical operators. In the previous slide, we have seen that we can have case small letter c and case capital letter C. The same goes for numbers. Say that the values of ranking 8, 9, and 10, we want to display the word master. We can have case 10, case 9, and case 8. That means we don't have to repeatedly write system.out.print master at all of the three cases. Within the switch and expression, we can assign values within the expression in switch. For example, we can write switch grade equal to D. If we run this code and the user enters C, it will display the grade is D because we reassign the value of grade to D within the switch expression. We can also do it with number. For example, here we have int number. In the expression, we can do any type of calculation. For example, switch number equal to number minus 2. So, when the user enters 5, in the switch expression, it will do number equal to 5 minus 2, so number has the value of 3. It then matches the number 3 with case 3 and execute the print line and display number 3. Break statement is used to skip remainder of switch structure. If no break statement is specified, all the statements in the remaining cases will be executed. Break is a reserved word in Java. It can be placed within if statement of a loop. If condition is met, the flow of control immediately exits the loop. Break can be used to exit early from a loop. We have seen the example where when we don't have break in our switch case, it will continue with the next statement. Let's look at this example of using break within the if statement. Here we have repetition, which is the while loop. We are going to learn about while loop in the next topic. Supposedly, the condition is we will loop through all of this until number becomes 0. We initialize the number as 10. Each time it loops through, it decrements by 1 because we have number minus minus. We have the if statement with the expression number equal to 5. When number is equal to 5, meaning that it is true, the statement that we have over there is break. So it will break out of the whole loop. That's why when we run the code, it displays number is 9. 9 minus minus is 8, so it will display number is 8. 8 minus minus is 7. It then display number is 7. 7 minus minus give us 6. It will display number is 6. 6 minus minus becomes 5. It checks in the if statement. 5 is equal to 5. That is true, so it breaks out of the loop and ends the program. So the output that we will get is number is 9, number is 8, number is 7, and number is 6. This slide shows the control flow of switch statement when we have break and also when there is no break statement. On the left side, we have switch end, case 1, and the statement is x equal to 10. Case 2, x equal to 20. And case 3, x equal to 30. So since we don't have breaks, when say that the value of n is 2, it checks the first case, n equal to 1, it is false. It checks the second case, 2 is equal to 2, that is true, so it executes statement x equal to 20. Then it continues with the statement after it, which is x equal to 30. On the right side, when we have break, after it finds the match of value in the case, it exits the switch. We may include a default case that will always be executed if there is no matching case. This is to allow defensive programming. In the switch, there can be at most one default case. If no default case is specified, the execution continues to the next statement after the switch structure. You can think of it as having only if statement without the else. When no cases match in the switch, if we don't have the default case, nothing will be displayed. That's the end of topic 4. In this selection topic, we have learned about if else, and also switch case statements.